think we will turn to the candidates themselves and ask them to take a minute to introduce themselves. Their name and the position they're holding now would be adequate. We don't need to know your ancestry. So Mark, if you would start, please.
All right, do we have a mic for this?
Yes, sorry. Should be good to go.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Mark Thunker, and I was on the council from 2020 to 2024. It was a wonderful experience, and I learned quite a lot from doing it. I'm originally from the mythical land of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and I was on the radio for several years in the Midwest. I moved out to LA and was acting in film and TV, things like that, and I went into TV news at a certain point back in 2002. Spent 10 years in TV news helping people with stories about the community. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bianca Latvala, and I live right here in Skycrest. I am a digital marketer, and many of my clients are small businesses and nonprofits who are in our community. I myself have served the community through volunteer leadership and through nonprofit organizations. I am also the chair currently of the new city committee, Community Resilience and Leisure Services. It's a mouthful. And I am the chair of that committee currently. I believe in service above self. That is the dedication I bring to everything I do. And I strongly believe that Clearwater should be a city that leads and not follows. And if my name does sound familiar, I would like to remind you that the opinions of the husband are not always a reflection of the views of household management. So I hope you'll take advantage of this evening to get to know me.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for the CNC, and thanks to all of you for attending. I am Kevin R.T. Laughlin. They added my initials. Thank you, Dr. Bill. Tonight, I intend on solving all of Clearwater's problems in 1 minute or less. But I will be available to speak to you afterwards. I think, Patrick, we've got the place till midnight. Is that right? When I put my name forward just 2 months ago, I vowed to be the person that people could talk to learn your concerns. We know a lot of the issues, but we also know that we have to find the direction to solve them, and I think I have those answers.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Patrick, and the entire CNC team for putting together such a wonderful candidate forum. The first forum of our election season. Excuse me, thank you. I'm out here running to represent and make sure there's a seat at the table for all of our neighbors. And my priorities are affordability, public safety, and smart growth. And I'm, thank you. I've served as the chairman of the Environmental Advisory Board for nearly a decade, and I look forward to starting on day one to work for you. Thank you, and make sure to vote Jared Leon for Clearwater on August 18th. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Wilson. I'm running for seat 5 on Clearwater City Council, and I grew up here in Pinellas County. I grew up in Clearwater. My family lives in Safety Harbor, and I think I'm the only one in my race who grew up in Clearwater and grew up in this area. So I know the issues on what Clearwater is facing. I know that Clearwater needs a fresh perspective to come into City Hall and to solve the problems that are going on in our city. And I really believe that I bring the experience. I've spent the past couple of years working as a congressional staffer for a member of Congress. I think my experience will speak for itself, that I have worked through many problems throughout our district to provide millions of dollars back to the city of Clearwater through many federal appropriations. I've been part of that process, and I'm going to bring that leadership and that expertise in the issues to Clearwater City Council, and I would really support you all if you guys can help me out and vote for it.
Each of the candidates was given a copy of a book that Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition put together a couple of years ago called Leveling the Playing Field. It was directed toward the council to understand what neighborhoods need to balance the demands or the proposals of developers versus neighborhoods that might be affected. It's a very significant volume. We've given each of the candidates a copy of that so they might read it and get educated as to what they can do to help the neighborhoods. Without further ado, I'd like to start the questions. We will start with Mr. Bunker. What experiences, professional or personal, have prepared you to make complex decisions that may shape Clearwater for decades?
Well, I think I joined the party here in stand-up. I was on the council for 4 years. I got a chance to actually make those decisions. Some of them I was incredibly pleased to have been a part of, like trying to bring some safety to Drew Street, which eventually was derailed by the next council. But also, it was exciting to be a part of choosing a new city manager, a new city attorney. I was incredibly proud of our city attorney. I thought he was great. And unfortunately, over this Scientology issue on Garden Street, we lost him. We also, I think, we hired a city manager who was troublesome. And I tried to warn people at the open meeting when we were doing interviews, if you pick this guy, he could be trouble, and he was.
Prior to moving to Clearwater, I worked for the University of Central Florida, and my job was to travel the country with the university president to fundraise to support the university's $1.7 billion budget. But if I'm being honest, the life experience that I bring that makes it possible for me to make any difficult decision is that this past year, many of you know, my husband was critically ill, and at 39 years old, I made life and death decisions for 3 months, 24 hours a day. And he's here. He's in the third row over here. And he's doing well and he's getting better. But if I can do that, I can literally do anything. And so I'm prepared to take on whatever the city brings me.
I retired as an industrial safety trainer, teaching people how to work at height without killing themselves. Every day I had a $4 million life insurance policy, liability insurance policy, to make sure that never happened. In over 15 years, it never did. I worked for the Air Force, United Airlines, the Coast Guard. I could go on and on. Nothing prepares you for what life throws at you than teaching people how not to think that they're Superman. There's a complex out there. They think that's going to happen to the other guy. And my job was to change their attitude. The same kind of attitude that I'm going to bring to straighten out our budget, to stop maybe spending all our money pointing towards the elite and putting it towards affordable housing, putting it towards, as Mr. Bunker said, Drew Street, putting it towards keeping our green spaces.
Thank you. We're ready to start. I'm uniquely experienced given my professional and community leadership background. Professionally, I spent 20 years as a journalist covering the issues and institutions in our city, the Tampa Bay area, and the state for publications including the Tampa Bay Times, the Associated Press, Reuters, and the Washington Post. That experience taught me how to evaluate complex issues and ask tough questions and understand the long-term impacts of policy decisions. My leadership experience includes nearly a decade as chairman of the city's Environmental Advisory Board, where I advocated for policies and initiatives and projects that led to millions of dollars in savings for our taxpayers. I'm vice president of Keep Pinellas Beautiful and help oversee the nonprofit that has a nearly $1 million budget. And as president of Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, I regularly work with the city on major issues while also advocating for the needs of our neighborhoods. And ultimately, making decisions on a $750 million budget doesn't come down to one person, but being able to listen to everyone and make thoughtful decisions today that impact our future. Thank you.
when we're talking about a $750 million budget, I think it's important to know that fiscal responsibility is important when we're talking about a budget that large. We need council members who are fiscally responsible and do not want to overspend or even consider things that would exceed tens of millions of dollars or a $90 million city hall, which we've seen in the past. So I think we need that sound leadership who's going to bring the fiscal responsibility to City Hall to take on the issues. In my experience working in the federal government, I've seen time and time again how the federal government has overspent. We all know that. We all know how the federal government works. But I've been able to see it on an inside basis on how making sound, fiscally responsible decisions matter. And that's what it comes down to, local government, is fiscal responsibility. You can have a budget so large, but you have to take care of the issues affecting Clearwater. And I think I have the mindset to do it.
Question number 2 will go to Bianca. Begin with Bianca. Council work is a significant workload. What is your understanding of that workload, and how will you balance that public service workload with your current responsibilities, personally or professionally?
As I mentioned in my introduction, I am strongly guided by the principle of service above self, and I understand that council is much more than 20 hours, and I'm prepared to give it whatever I have to give. And I do have a professional career outside of running for Clearwater City Council, but thankfully I have the flexibility to be able to pick and choose how many clients and how many hours I work. And so I'm able to work that around what will be my main priority, which is City Council.
I'm retired. There's something called doce far niente. It's being at peace with yourself when you're alone, when you're idle. I found that since I retired. COVID kind of killed that training business I told you about. No one wants a trainer in their building. Edwards Air Force Base alone lost over 60 people the first year of COVID. I found peace with myself. I've read hundreds of books. I retired from acting, but I have nothing but time on my hands. The reading, the studying, the meeting people that I have done has been 40 or 60 hours a week already. I have no fear of hard work.
Thank you. I understand that serving on our city council is more than just attending a handful of meetings every month. It requires preparation, community engagement, responsiveness, and a significant investment of time outside of the public meetings. Fortunately, that level of commitment is nothing new to me. Today, I serve as president of the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, well, on absence. I'm vice president of Keep Pinellas Beautiful and president of my neighborhood association, the Spring Branch Neighborhood Association, on a leave of absence as well. But these roles have already required me to balance my public meetings, constituent concerns, policy decisions, and community initiatives while maintaining my professional responsibilities. And I view public service as a commitment, not a title. I expect a seamless transition from engaged community leader to your next council member. Thank you.
Yeah, so I've had the pleasure of serving Clearwater residents for many years now, coming up on 4 years now, and residents throughout the entirety of Pinellas County, and I'm super excited to put in the work. You know, I bring a lot of energy, certainly with the position that I have in my daytime job, I'm able to balance whatever that this job will inquire, and I'm super excited to get to work for the city that I love and the city that, you know, my wife and I want to bring children into this world and raise children in this city, and I couldn't think of a better opportunity to get started now and make decisions that will affect my generation and my kids' generation.
Question number 3, we'll start with Kevin.
Patrick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew I would do that. Thank you.
Well, I too am retired. I have to say that I would love to do more things in the community with that spare time. When I was on the council, I'm reminded that in this room we had signed the Sister Cities agreement with Ixmiquilpan in Mexico. And it was a great event. And the people there invited me to come to a special event that they were having where these families were reunited after sometimes 10, 20, or 30 years. And I couldn't speak the language, but I knew everything that they were saying, because you see these generations of people who may not even have met one another. And I videotaped that with my phone, went home, put it online, did some subtitles for it, and it's very deep.
Now, question number 3, Kevin. How do you propose to collaborate with your fellow council members to make decisions and to evaluate city management?
City management in Clearwater is impressive. There's been some bumps of recently, case in point, the Save the Garden events. Please, Ms. Call was just doing her job. I am all for saving the garden, but the city management that we have in place now is top notch. As chairman of the Marine Advisory Board, I've been working with Michael McDonald, who finally they brought somebody from within up to run the department instead of a figurehead. Nothing against the chief of police, but he was our previous one. But I believe that there's always consensus. I believe that if there's intelligent people in the room, then we will find a solution for our problems.
Thank you. And thank you for the question, Patrick. I look forward to working with other council members when elected August 18th. The best way to understand expectations and make evaluations is to have open conversations. And I would propose a special work session to focus on city dashboards that track various metrics and city departments' expectations and what criteria do we want to use as we evaluate success. And I think going through that process is the best way to try to figure out what your expectations are if you're going to evaluate the accomplishments of our city's management. Thank you.
So I believe we have amazing city staff. They're some of the best people that I've ever met. I think our city manager is wonderful, assistant city managers as well. I think that the one-on-one meetings that the council members have with the city manager are crucial. They are so crucial because it allows the council members to tell the city manager what their priorities are, and the city manager can talk to the rest of the council members, and we can find a coalition together of solving problems, and that's what we have to do, especially in the sunshine. I think some of these council meetings are so crucial, and I wish that more folks would watch them because it allows all of us to communicate. And Lord willing, I'm on the council, I will make transparency the golden standard, and it has to be because residents are concerned about that. And I think transparency is the overarching theme of all these questions probably tonight because there's a lot of information that is lacking.
Well, the question is about getting along with the folks on the council. Is that, yeah?
Yeah, collaborating with them for decisions.
All right. That's something that I feel very comfortable doing. And I had people on the council that we had diametrically opposed views, but we were still friends. Like Hoyt and I disagreed about pretty much everything, but he's a good guy, and we work things out on the council. I see a lot of stress and anger in the council as it is now, and I've had some folks from staff come and say to me that we really need you back there to be a calming influence, which is what I try to do. You know, many of you may know that I've been helping people who've been abused and defrauded by Scientology for close to 30 years. And I have videotape of Scientologists surrounding me on the street and heckling me and saying horrific things. And people always remark about the fact that I'm always calm. And there you go.
One of my strongest leadership skills is that I can collaborate and find common ground with just about anyone. And I think that that is going to be the most valuable skill that I can bring to Clearwater City Council. I am a bridge builder, And I'd also like to point out that many of you have seen me before be that person where I take the two sides who are arguing and I find that road forward for them. And I think that there have been a lot of issues, there's been a lot of major issues that will probably even happen before I get there, where they need someone who can build consensus amongst the group of them. I also think that this is an important time to point out that they also need the balance in the form of having at least one female voice present on the council.
Thank you. Question number 4, we'll start with Jared. Have you ever been a member or an officer of an HOA or a neighborhood association?
Oh, really? This one for me? I guess we all have to answer all the same questions, right? So,
Yes, you do.
All right. Yes, as you may know, I serve as president of the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition. I also, and our coalition, which I don't think you mentioned, we represent about 25 neighborhood associations and 35,000 homeowners throughout the city. I also serve as president of the Spring Branch Neighborhood Association, which I formed with some of my neighbors in 2018, and we've done a lot of tremendous work in our community, in our neighborhood, in removing 6,500 pounds of trash and getting $1.5 million investment from the city for State Street Park. I recommend you all go out and check it out. Thank you.
Well, currently, I'm not part of an HOA. My wife and I are actually in the home buying process right now. So, Lord willing, whatever home that we choose, if it's in an HOA, I certainly plan on joining it. I know myself, my wife will probably do as well. So we love to be involved. And so, but currently, just being in my apartment right now, don't have the expertise of an HOA. But my family members have been part of HOAs for my entire life. So, lots of experience in talking with them about those issues.
I've never been a part of an HOA, but I have been the guy that everyone goes to in our apartment complex. I live at the Lexington Club. It's a huge 55-plus place. They always come to me to say, oh, we got this problem here. Well, one thing I discovered is there was a guy down the hall whose apartment had a major fire, and his kitchen and his bathroom were charred. He was still living in there. And I made sure that I got the city over to check that out and make sure that he had a good apartment to live in, because as it was, he was sleeping on his sofa and putting up with the rest of the room. I also, make this fast, somebody was waiting for me when I went into the building a couple of weeks ago, and she said that she would like to start one. Well, what she said was she'd like me to start one. So I looked it up online, and I'm probably going to do that for them soon.
As I mentioned, I live here in Skycrest, and I do attend our association meetings when my schedule allows. But I am a board member of the Rotary Club of Clearwater, and that has afforded me to serve many neighborhoods throughout our city, and not just my own, and it's brought me excellent leadership experience and the ability to work with all ages, all abilities, all needs.
I have never lived in a community where they had an HOA or even a neighborhood group. I believe Del Oro does, but technically we're not part of Del Oro where I live, the tiny little park. But I did live in Bel Air for 13 years. They're an HOA with a police force, and they enforce the laws. I have a story, but it would take me more than 1 minute to tell you. So ask me about it later when the police knock at your door to tell you in another 20 hours you will be violating the law. That's what I picture an HOA being, but I know they do good. I know the neighborhood coalitions do good. And the wonderful presentations that they hold over at the CNC meetings, you should really attend. We learned about homelessness at the last one. We learned about these electric bikes at the last one. They're terribly informative.
Next question will go to Mr. Wilson. Have you ever served on a citizen advisory board, and what led you to do that?
Well, currently I serve on the Clearwater Housing Authority, and I was just appointed by the mayor to do that back in November. And it was a great honor to be able to do that, and I wanted to because I think housing is a very, I would say it's a very underused issue that I think a lot of people don't know too much about, and a lot of people don't put too much focus on. I think we have a lot of workforce housing issues in Clearwater. Especially, I've met with the CEO of Baycare Hospital, and he expressed that there are workforce housing issues with a lot of the people that are in the residency trying to find homes, trying to find places to live while they're there for the couple of years that they're serving. So I think the work that we do on the housing board is very important. I serve with a lot of great individuals, and although I'm new to it, I'm excited to remain on there and to get to work and to find solutions and make sure that the properties that these people are living in are clean and they're safe, and it's enjoyable for them to raise their families.
While I was on the council for 4 years, I also served on the Downtown Development Board and our pension committee for the city, and also on the Courtney Campbell Causeway Board. I was part of that with Bill Johnson, and the Pinellas County School Traffic Safety Board, and I enjoyed being a part of all of those. And it was wonderful to have a chance to have an impact in all of these situations. The pension board, you hear these stories, especially from police officers that are or firefighters that have gone through these most horrific situations, and it's amazing what the people who work for the city of Clearwater do and achieve, and I was happy to support all of them. And for the okay.
Through the end of last year, I was serving on the Parks and Recreation Board before it was consolidated into the new Community Resiliency and Leisure Services Board, which does also continue to oversee Parks and Rec. The reason I was motivated to join is that I use our parks and I love playing tennis, and it is a very expensive hobby in Clearwater, whereas in Largo, it's only $5 for a 2-hour session to play with other people. So that was my main motivation, but there's been so many other things that I've learned about while serving on that committee, and I'm very excited now to be on this consolidated committee because it is intended to make the most of staff time and just be advisory. And I love reading, and I think that our environment is what is going to keep tourism coming to Clearwater and keeping us thriving. So I'm excited about our new board.
I am in my 10th year on the Clearwater Marine Advisory Board, my second as chairman. Yes, we are still doing hurricane repairs from the storms nearly 2 years ago. They devastated a lot of our docks and marinas. Set back a little bit, though we're back on schedule with the $48 million rebuilding of the Clearwater Beach Marina. I was pleased to see that they just added a parking garage there in the parking lot of the marina, though it's on hold, $39 million set apart for that, to really make that the center of our tourism. The biggest thing I think that happened recently was my work with SCAG, with the Stevenson Creek Advocacy Group. We are very close to getting Stevenson Creek designated as a manatee protection zone to stop the boats from flying up and down there in that narrow channel and hurting them. Over 200 calves, or 200 manatees, over 20 calves were sighted there this year.
Thank you for whoever asked this question. This is a good one, and it got me thinking a little bit while I was waiting for my turn to answer, because it was a long time ago that I first started serving on the city's Environmental Advisory Board, and it was before I started on that board. And and you'll hear about this a lot. My time spent as a chairman of the Environmental Advisory Board, And I haven't mentioned yet either all the work I did with raising guide dog puppies and training. But 12 years ago, I started raising guide dog puppies and training for Southeastern Guide Dogs. And while I was doing that, I decided to become a member of Clearwater Citizen Academy. And I graduated Citizen Academy in 2015. And after graduating Citizen Academy, and I'm raising another guide dog, I said, what's next? And there was an opening on the Clearwater Environmental Advisory Board, and I took an opportunity there and ran with it and served as chairman and was voted as chairman for almost 10 years on that board. It led to a number of changes throughout our city for benefit for all. Thank you.
Next question will go to Mr. Bunker. Is there a specific issue that you have been quite passionate about and spoke directly to council members at a council meeting?
Well, I wonder what it could be. Generally, when I'm up in front of the council now, it's to talk about Scientology. And it's because somebody has to. So, people have been afraid to take them on. That's why I ran for office. And, while I was on the council, it was my mantra that whatever deal we do with Miscavige, and I was open to a deal, he had to go first. And now he's going first. So the things that are being done now that are being proposed, like the Evo movie theater, I'm fine with that. I'm happy. My concern in the future would be if he actually turns the entire downtown into his downtown, what kind of micromanaging will he be doing? And I think it's important for somebody on the council to understand how he operates.
I've worked on the campaign of every individual who currently serves on the city council. And while I may not agree with all of their opinions or actions since that time, it has afforded me the opportunity to make my opinions very clear without taking time at the dais away from other citizens. And in this past year, I've made it very clear where I want them to stand on two very important issues regarding the Church of Scientology, and that is Save the Garden and the use of the downtown property that's about to become available at the courthouse. And I was not afraid to tell the church that I would not support Save the Garden, and I also wasn't afraid when one of my endorsers recently threatened to pull their endorsement for me because they did not want me to publicly support the Save the Garden initiative. And so those are the consequences I'm willing to take, but I think that this is a very important issue that we need more voices on.
My most irate presentation in front of the city council, I guess, was when they killed the Drew project. I live at the other end of Drew, so anytime I go to downtown, anytime I go to the beach, I take Drew. I drive at 40 miles an hour and they pass me like I'm standing still. The people walking on the sidewalks walk and look over their shoulders. I spoke recently in support of not killing the project for the armory in North Greenwood, but I spoke out of a way the council handled it, the way it seemed like it was sprung on the residents, and the way maybe that the owner of Mamma Mia's, or I'm sorry, the Yo Mama's, wonderful guy, industrious guy. He started a business in the same little storage facility on US 19 that I started my first business 33 years ago. But he didn't seem to know anybody in the audience, anybody from the community, that he was taking advantage of the CRA there.
Thank you very much for the question, Patrick. I'm glad it's only for 2 years because people know me at City Council for quite a long time. I've been going before council. Maybe not as well as you're noticed out there, Patrick, but as chairman of the Environmental Advisory Board, I would give yearly reports to the City Council on the board's activities and our accomplishments. Additionally, I wrote and got unanimous support from the City Council for a letter supporting the slow speed zone, the Manatee slow speed zone in Stevenson Creek that Kevin spoke about earlier. That initiative continues to gain momentum. The EAB opposed rules that would allow residential turf use throughout the city. However, while we opposed it, the board also offered numerous recommendations that were taken into account in the wording of the ordinance. On EAB, I also urge city leaders to improve our community rating score from a 5 to a 2. And as president of the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, I wrote letters supporting the city's Adopt a Drain initiative, helping the city secure grant funding for that program. Again, another letter for the Manatee Slow Speed Zone. And also in my role as president of the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, I've been asked by the city to provide letters for grant funding, which led to $1.8 million in infrastructure improvements by Sam's boss.
So ever since the storms hit in 2024, I've been nagging the council members over the past year, talking about stormwater, especially on our North Beach, where we have seen such issues. And so I'm sure all of you all saw a couple weeks ago, not by me, but my boss secured $1.7 million in stormwater repairs for that North Beach area in Clearwater. And so that's the conversations I'm having on the back end, on my professional side. But there's a lot of issues, whether it be Duke Energy or talking about the 17 surplus county properties going up, that, talking about them, nagging them, calling them at 1 a.m. to get the scoop on them. So, my relationship is very personal with most of the council members, and I'm very happy about that because I can pick up the phone, call, and text them about whatever I need an answer on. And I do that almost every single day. So.
The next question will go to Bianca. If the landings proposal is presented to the council, do you think the final decision on that proposal should go to a referendum or be simply decided by the council?
I understand that this is an issue that many people are very passionate about right now. And like I mentioned, I live in Skycrest, so it's come up in our neighborhood meetings because we aren't that far from it. So the will of the people is important to me, but also I am not an attorney, and our city is run through a charter that we've approved. And I think that the most appropriate action for me as a current council member would be to follow the advice of the city attorney as to their interpretation of the charter.
As many of you know, I spent days and days talking to people in the parking lot of the landings. I met the golfers, I met the neighbors, I met passerbys who just had no clue, one, that this was happening. When I attended the original presentation, a question was brought up about the microplastics of the artificial turf. The answer was, it's got a 15-year warranty. I wanted to stand up and say, is this your first day in Florida? Because microplastics are going to deteriorate instantly. It's the highest point in Clearwater. That's why the airport's there. To put it up against the airport, to put those lights, to put stadiums in, to put loudspeakers in. Someone should talk to the neighbors there. Somebody should talk to the golfers, as I did, and find out that there are passionate people who think this is the worst idea in the world and more thievery of our green space.
Thank you. I'm no attorney, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. I did read the city charter, though, and according to the charter, the proposed change should go to a referendum. However, as a council member, I would take the option to decline the project as an unsolicited bid, and that is an option that we have as part of the unsolicited bid process. I would then seek a public process, including open house events and other opportunities for public comment, and for us to move forward with the best use of the landing space that way. And too often, our public comment is treated as a box to check rather than a process to guide decision making. And so residents deserve a seat at the table from the very beginning, not as an afterthought after projects are already in the works. The city should determine its future, not developers. Thank you.
Well, I think it should be a transparent project. I think that all residents should have a voice in what happens. But I also, too, believe in the integrity of our charter. I am not a legal-minded individual, although sometimes I like to think I am, but I do believe that we would seek the guidance of the city attorney, and if he recommends based on the city charter, it should go for a referendum, then I support that, and if he decides based on the charter that it should be voted on by council, I support that as well. I trust our city leaders who have better legal minds than myself. So, thank you.
when I was on the council, we did have the last landings attempt where they wanted to put in a light industrial park there and create jobs. And that one had to go to the people because they were changing the use of the land from recreational to light industrial. So the city was forced to put that on the ballot. I'm not sure that that's the case this time, but you looked into this probably more deeply than I did. Because it seems like it's going from recreation to recreation. And to me, it seems like the city is going to try to fight that. I know, though, from that vote, that the people in the neighborhood don't want to change the character of the neighborhood. They don't want the noise, they don't want the traffic, they want to keep the green space. So I would fight for that. I would fight to get it on the ballot, and I would definitely support keeping it as it is.
The next question will go to Kevin. Do you support the sale or the lease of the 17 downtown properties declared surplus by the county, and why would you make that choice?
They're gonna sell it to the city of Clearwater. We're gonna let the county council, I believe 2 members, one's here, 2 members are actually from Clearwater. 7 people that are gonna decide downtown Clearwater's future, and we're all sitting back saying, this is just fine. They'll take good care of us. They won't hand it over to a church. They'll see that it's for best use. There's our transportation hub to the beach. There's a big step in solving our beach population and traffic problem. They're talking about little helicopters. They don't fly in this weather. We need something solid. We need something on wheels that can travel in any weather. I'm partly responsible in my job on the Marine Advisory Board for the ferry routes. Ferries are wonderful, not when there's a storm blowing in. People are afraid to go to the beach because they're afraid they'll get stranded if they don't have their vehicles. And until we get the vehicles out, they're going to start selecting who can go to the beach. Read the Beach by Design, it's in there.
Thank you. I think ultimately what we all want is an activated downtown. But before permanently selling public property, I believe we should fully explore whether a lease structure can achieve the same economic and community benefits while also preserving flexibility for future generations. Once public land is gone, it's gone. And we should be thoughtful stewards of our assets that belong to the residents of all of the city of Clearwater. And so the current Ballad Hotel and the Bluff projects are also long-term lease developments. It's not something that our city hasn't done in the past. So thank you.
Well, I think like the rest of you all, I want to see those properties activated for the public so everyone can enjoy. I think, I trust the county commissioners. I think they have the best interest if it comes to, leasing them, if that's what it takes, because ultimately we want the residents to feel like their downtown is coming back. And I think it is. And we're seeing that right now. And I think the 17 properties are such an opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity for my generation, for my children's generation to totally transform downtown. And so whatever direction that it heads to, I think it has to be open and activated for everyone to enjoy.
While I was on the council, we made some great strides in redeveloping downtown despite Scientology. We revamped Coachman Park, we put in the sound amphitheater, we've got 400 apartments going up on the old City Hall site, we've got a boutique hotel coming, we've got ground floor retail and restaurants there that Scientology will not control. When I was in City Hall, it was imperative that the city would have say over what happens to those county properties. We need those properties to have the footprint that we need to develop despite Scientology. I'm happy to see Scavenge is doing something positive now. I don't know how long that's going to last. But it would be best to have those properties out of Scientology's hands.
I ideally would support the lease of this property, but I'm also a practical individual. So if a combination of lease and sale with strong deed restrictions, so there is not a second generation buyer and it requires them to develop them, I would be okay with the necessity of the county needing some of that money to develop their new hub. But ideally, it would be a combination with a 100-year lease. This is a project I have been actively working on, and I have confidence in the direction that this is going. Some of the largest developers in the world want access to that property. And not only is the county property available, but there are property that belong to the city that could also be thrown into that. And so I think something that's important to point out is that the issue of Scientology does not exist to the majority of the commissioners. And I know this because I've spoken to them about it personally. The council in Clearwater, unfortunately, has to recognize that they are a big part of our downtown. The county commission does not, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to help us move forward.
Jared will get the next question. Next question goes to Jared. As a council member, would you support an initiative for the city attorney to have on his staff or an outside retainer an ombudsman legally representing residents opposed to a development proposal?
Thank you for the question. If you're not familiar with the Leveling the Playing Field report, I suggest you take some time to read it. I did it a couple times, and I had to re-review it for this question, so thank you very much for asking. But I do support a more level playing field for residents in regards to flexible and other developments that deviate from our code or are otherwise uncharacteristic to the charm of our city. This could come in the form of a community development advisory board. This would not be a legislative or quasi-judicial meeting, but an informational, educational opportunity for more transparency. I believe in the Leveling the Playing Field report, it noted that the ombudsman position would be something that might be unattainable for the time being. So thank you very much.
Again, I would certainly want to defer to the city attorney to give us the proper advice for having an ombudsman. I don't know a situation off the top of my head that would require one as of right now. But I would heavily lean on the city attorney and proper city staff for that. I don't know, based off of what an ombudsman does, are we going to fund opposition to a project the city is currently working on? If that is the directive by the city attorney, then I will follow that and we will go from there.
You brought this to us when I was on the council, and we didn't go for an ombudsman at the time. My worry was the city's going to pay our legal department to fight the person we're paying, but there are options. I like the idea of maybe having somebody on retainer, so it's not a permanent job, but whenever a situation comes up, we can have somebody working for the citizens to fight for their side. I think the real problem, though, is most of the times you feel blindsided. You don't learn about these major projects until after it's too late. And I think that's the real situation that we have to take care of. We have to have better communication. We have to make sure you're involved from the very get-go.
I think this is an inefficient use of tax dollars because we'd be paying one attorney to fight with another attorney within the same organization. I think that it's perfectly fine for the city to be able to hire outside experts, outside legal counsel, when they feel like they need additional opinions on issues that they're discussing. I also think that in the last year, we've seen that the citizens are perfectly capable of making anything happen that they want to make happen, and that includes hiring an attorney to represent their interests.
This is just a trick question to see if we can all pronounce ombudsman. It's a very tough word. how many of you feel that you as citizens need an attorney to represent you against what's going on at City Hall? Show of hands. That's what they're asking here. Do we need our own representation to go up when we feel that recreation of the landings, membership recreation, is that still recreation? The kids in that neighborhood aren't going to be invited over to those soccer fields. Okay, that's where maybe somebody could step in and say, you're neglecting your citizens here. You're turning a green space into a private club. And they want to do it on our backs. We're the ones that are going to be giving up all this, waiting to see if it's a success and we actually do see tax revenue, or it'll be a field like Airco or one of those other golf courses that have disappeared. It's our last affordable golf course.
The next question will go to Mr. Wilson. The Garden Street and other streets vacancy request will go before council on the June 4th meeting this Thursday. Should that decision go to a referendum to the residents of Clearwater, or should it simply be decided by the council members?
I think we would have to see the legal precedent for it again. I'm not a legal-minded individual, but I would think the city attorney will give correct guidance on that. Also, too, I think this is such a hot-button issue that I think the people should probably speak on that issue. I think it's caused a lot of issues. There's other vacation requests that have been made as well. We can take those one at a time, but I think this is the biggest one that people seem to be most interested in. I think the other two, to my knowledge, I don't believe those should go to referendum, but if this one does, based off of what the city attorney advises, and ultimately, we're going to find out on Thursday after the first reading. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to speculate what the city council should do, as we're going to find out in a couple days.
Scientology doesn't need Garden Avenue. They want it, but they don't need it. They're building this gigantic L. Ron Hubbard Hall where they will do 4 events a year there that they broadcast to Scientologists around the globe. On those nights, they can get an event permit and shut off the street. But the rest of the time, we should have it open for emergency vehicles and citizens who want to continue to use it. They can still have the hall. They can still have the L. Ron Hubbard Park, which is going to be a horrific thing for the gateway to our downtown. But it pains me that the city is not taking the Save the Garden petitions seriously enough. I think it's a remarkable achievement that everybody did to gather those signatures, and I'm hoping that the ACLU, with their court case, will be able to rectify some of this.
I ideally would like to see us in a position where we have a council who is taking the will of the people seriously in this situation. But given my comments earlier about the fact that I had an endorser threaten to pull my endorsement if I ever publicly supported Save the Garden, that's kind of where I'm standing on it. And so that endorsement is up for grabs. But after tonight, I'm willing to stand up for that because this is a very important issue and it's hard to ignore the over 8,000 people who signed that petition.
Why are you pointing at me? Have you been to Save the Garden? Have you been to SaveTheGarden.org? Have you really looked at the history of that street? It's not just they're taking a street. It's a solid, real piece of Clearwater's history. Someone could say they've lived here all their life. 33 years I've been living here. I've learned everything there is about Pinellas County, about Clearwater, about the waterways. This is one of those things where the city is going to decide. They're not going to put it to a referendum. We are going to lose. We are all going to be heartbroken. And they're going to go on their merry way. And that's probably, I know Thursday's just a first reading. I am not for this. go to savethegarden.org, please, and really look at what they're talking about. It's not just giving up a piece of land.
It's unfortunate that what would typically be a routine administrative process, like a road vacation, has become such a flashpoint for our city. I think the larger conversation that we've been having as a community extends beyond Garden Avenue. We've seen similar concerns around projects such as the landings, Clearwater Armory, and other proposals involving public assets and public spaces. As a general principle, public space should remain public whenever possible. And if the public is being asked to give up a public asset in perpetuity, residents should have a meaningful voice in that decision, and the community should be more than fairly compensated for what is being lost. Too often, residents feel that they're reacting to decisions rather than helping shape them. I believe public engagement should happen at the beginning of the process, not at the end. And I believe that with Garden Avenue as well. Thank you.
The next question will go to Mr. Bunker. If elected, what would be your first 1, 2, or 3 initiatives that you would propose for council consideration as a new council member?
Well, I tell you, I would put the landings question, referendum or not, out there. And also, I was very happy in my first term that we were able to change the charter so that Clearwater can now have ADUs. And that's leading to this wonderful shipping containers mall in North Greenwood. I think there's a lot of opportunities for things like that. So I'd like to see more advancing of the ADUs because it costs so damn much money to live here. We have to find some cheaper alternatives. Also, there was, let's see, another one I wanted to mention.
I think the most important thing I can do as a new member of the council is to make sure that the community knows that my number one priority is having an open door. I have never met someone that I wasn't able to find common ground with, and I encourage all of you that if I'm elected, you take advantage of that policy, even if you think that I will disagree with you, because I am a very reasonable person, and I am open to working towards the issues that you find important. I would meet with my opponent and see what were the issues that he wanted to prioritize. I think the most important thing that I can do first is to take my job seriously as a representation of the people.
Can we still go back and fix Drew? My 1 and 2, Drew and the landings. The landings, when that terrible presentation was made to us, where they were, to me, embarrassed in front of the people that were in the audience. I was there. If you notice, a week later, FDOT came out and said, oh, by the way, we're going to pave Drew Street. Not the fix that was planned years ago to make it into a safe residential street, okay? But we're going to pave it over. That can still be stopped and we can still fix it right. And then I'm going to bring it back to those 17 downtown properties. That is the future of our downtown, and that we cannot trust the county council to decide. People from Gulfport, from St. Petersburg, from Tarpon Springs are having a say in what happens to our downtown. We must go back and look at the charter. When they built the facade of the fake city hall, or the fake county courthouse, and stole the county seat from St. Petersburg many, many years ago, they must have put something in there that comes back to us when the county's done with it.
Thank you for this thoughtful question. I took some time thinking about it, and I'm running to represent neighbors and make sure that we have a seat at the table. And so for me, 3 of the actionable items are things that I've been hearing in our community. I agree with you, Kevin. Drew Street is one of those things that I hear about. The slow speed signs that have already been approved by FDOT for the plan, the 2-year later plan that we have now for us for Drew Street, those slower speed signs are available and ready now. So residents have been asking for safety improvements. The project is expected to start by the end of the year. Let's put those signs in now and start getting some slower speeds on Drew Street now. I'd also initiate a public process to ensure that we as a city chart our future regarding the landings and not developers. And I'd also like to get an update on and move forward on initiatives regarding the city's community adaptation plan. This report was first developed in 2017, and it's an action plan for the city's vulnerability assessment and includes ways to make the city more resilient.
I'm going to steal your word resiliency, because that's where we are. After 2 storms hit us, we need to focus on resiliency. We need to focus on critical infrastructure, especially on our beaches. I cannot stress that enough, how important stormwater is on our beaches. And I know this question is going to come up, but we need to talk about our beach more. We need to talk about the core infrastructure of our beach. We need to talk about how we can mix livability with destination. And we can do that by improving mobility on Clearwater Beach. Traffic is terrible. Everyone knows that. There's a lot of developments going around on the beach as well. So if we can take care of the beach, it will trickle through the rest of our city and fixing just core key infrastructure. And that is my #1 priority when I get into office.
We are now into Final Jeopardy. This is the last question. It'll come from the advanced questions that we got for the candidates. And then I will switch to questions that came from the audience members. And this one is for Bianca to start. Beach by Design was created in 1991 and has been very effective with bringing growth and development to Clearwater Beach. In your opinion, as a council member, do you think it should continue, or do you think we are now entering into a phase of overdevelopment on the beach with the attendant traffic problems being increased?
I think Beach by Design served its initial purpose, but it was created quite a long time ago. And I think that it's important as a city to make sure that things that we put in place continue to serve us the best. And you cannot make any further decisions about the beach without first measuring what the impacts will be. We've all tried to go down there during the spring break, so we understand that traffic will be a major impact of any future designs. So I think that everything should be open for discussion, and I think maybe it's just time to review that.
I agree that it is antiquated because they actually quote Woody Allen in Beach by Design when they talk about traffic and parking. Separate the art from the artist, because what he says is true. More than any time in history, Clearwater faces a crossroads. One path leads us to despair and utter hopelessness, the other to our total annihilation. I hope we have the wisdom to choose properly. They read that and tell me anywhere in there where they solved the beach parking problem, where they solved the traffic problem. They want to build 600 more rooms, luxury rooms, okay, full resorts. They will build a parking garage when it proves that it can pay for itself year round. I think that's the cart before the horse. We've got to solve the traffic problem before we put one more hotel down on Clearwater Beach and solve this traffic problem so that we can go there instead of the elite that they say we're going to siphon traffic. If you're a worker, if you're an owner, if you're a guest, you can go down the beach. Otherwise, you're going to sit in traffic. They're going to dedicate a lane for other people, and we're going to sit there in traffic.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very familiar with Beach by Design. I've lived in the community since before we had Beach by Design, and we've had it since about 2001. So 25 years with the same planning document. It's certainly time for a review. It helped create a framework for redevelopment. It encouraged investment and it improved public spaces. It contributed to Clearwater Beach becoming one of the most recognized beach destinations in the world. But at the same time, Clearwater Beach today faces challenges that were not either anticipated or have evolved over time. Traffic has continued to evolve in a very negative way. Parking is not there. Infrastructure capacity, we're talking about that, and resiliency for the entire island, let alone where it's been overdeveloped. Questions about the scale and intensity of the development have also been asked. So rather than asking whether Beach by Design is successful or unsuccessful, I think the better question is whether it still reflects the values and needs and priorities of our community today. And good planning documents should always evolve with the community. And I believe it's appropriate to periodically review and update them. So thank you.
So I think Beach by Design has certainly served its purpose, but I think it needs to be adapted through the times that we're in now. If we look at the beach, even 15 years ago, back when I was a kid, it is totally different than how it is now. We have seen much more traffic, much more people, much more revitalization efforts along the beach, and which is good. Progress is great. But it needs to be adapted to help the problems that we are facing today. And I mentioned mobility, and I'll keep saying mobility. Mobility is important. Traffic needs to be taken seriously. But we're missing the key factor here is that look what's happening down on the bluffs. We have that parking garage that is being built. And once that is going to be built, I think more people will be inclined to park downtown and take the ferry over. Increase the use of the ferry onto the beach. And I think that will mitigate some of the traffic that we're seeing over the bridge, and it will improve the overall mobility of the beach. Thank you.
You should be bunkered and like August mentioned, or bunkered. Sorry.
Thank you. So when I was on the council, we had a lot of issues from folks reaching out to us with problems with parking, and that was one that I tried hard to do something about. There are businesses down there that can't keep employees because of the parking. I mean, it's bad enough that people can't afford to live on the beach and work on the beach, but people were buying a monthly parking pass for one of our garages, and then the garage would be full, so they'd have to pay for parking elsewhere again. And I thought, that's just not right, and we couldn't find a solution. Another person drove me through the entire neighborhood and was pointing out, that's an Airbnb, that's an Airbnb. They purchased that apartment, they took that house. All of these are Airbnbs. And we need to be working more for the folks to make this livable.
And that will be the end of the outside event. Now we're going to move, if you don't mind, without a break, to the council. Questions or candidates from the audience. And the first one go to Mr. Laughlin.
My handwriting's terrible. So.
And the eyes are good too. Anyway, US 19 corridor has many buildings, many stories high. In your opinion, as a council member, what would be the best use for future development on US 19?
It has many what? I'm sorry?
It has many large buildings, many stories high on 19 presently. If you are a council member, how would you approach further development on US 19?
I'd rather have them on US 19 than anywhere else in town, blocking the view. We do need to keep expanding. The US 19 corridor has made great improvements over the years. Adding pedestrian crosswalks is going to be another bonus, that people don't have to walk a mile just to cross the street to walk back a mile. I think we need the businesses. I think that has to be looked at as our industrial area. I don't think there's any way around it. I think that alleviates them building on Gulf to Bay, building, God forbid, on Drew Street, or building in our downtown where they're going to block our view. Downtown should be an attraction. It shouldn't be where our industry is. I think there's other things that can be done as far as expanding industry to Greenwood, to North Greenwood. But US 19, again, I'm retired. I don't have to commute anymore. Like you, maybe you schedule your transportation not to go with the traffic. But it is what it is.
Thank you for the question, whoever asked this from the audience. So many years ago, I think it was almost 15 years ago, the city undertook a process to change the way development worked along US 19 corridor. I covered this when I was a reporter covering the city. And some of those plans and changes in policy that was implemented at that time were seen with a lot of the large apartment complexes that have sprung up along US 19. The idea was to put more of our intense development along that corridor. But what we're seeing now happen is something that Sam has already brought up in terms of mobility. And the concerns that we're seeing now after these developments have gone in is that they're in and out developments and there's not connectivity to the rest of the surrounding traffic network. So I think if we're looking at US 19, the best future use of development there is to, again, make sure that transportation in and around that area is more connected.
Well, I would also say it needs to be more connected, but if we have noticed off of Drew Street and off of 19 across from Big Hair Ballpark, that entire lot is going to be under transformation soon by the Phillies, and so that's going to add to more traffic. And of course, I take 19 south every single day down to Seminole, and there's apartment buildings flying up left and right, and it's going to cause more traffic, more commuters, more people driving north, south, all up and down 19. And then if 19's too crowded, they're going to try and get off and go down Gulf to Bay, go down Drew. And so it's going to become too congested. But I think we have to talk about mobility. I'll keep saying mobility, making sure that residents can find their way around the city without too much influx. And that word that we used earlier, density. Too much density along 19 is probably not the best for that good work-life balance. And once again, I mentioned earlier, mixing that livability with destination. Clearwater.
Clearwater is very built out, and the 19 corridor is about the only place we have to bring in business and create some new developments. So it's unfortunate. We need to have the support that everyone's talking about for the traffic and the new downtown that the Phillies are talking about at their property. They seem to be wanting to create their own downtown next to the stadium. So there are things that are happening, and they're going to continue to happen. We just have to make sure that everyone who drives through the area and who lives in the area has the support they need to do this properly. And I think I'm done.
The bigger issue that I've really heard people talking about with regards to the US 19 corridor is really who's purchasing the properties that are available. And so I think it is important for us to look at what we have and try and make our own use of it before other organizations try and take advantage of that. Obviously, traffic is an issue. We've seen that with the construction that's farther north on US 19. I don't know if you're like me, but I do not try and drive north on 19 after 5 p.m. But I think those are kind of the things that you go through to eventually have a thriving area that really works for its constituents. But we don't have a lot to work with as far as land and property, so we have to work with what we have.
Next question will go to Mr. Leon. Okay. Accessory dwelling units, ADUs, were enacted by Clearwater in 2024. Even though they represent a very viable solution to affordable housing, only 3 or 4 have been permitted thus far. What would you do about ADUs if you are elected as a council member?
Thanks for asking that question. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it from Mark regarding ADUs, but that's surprising that we've only had that many, and maybe it has to do with the times we're living in right now, the cost of construction, things like that. If there's ways that we can improve permitting to help homeowners achieve these projects, that's one way we can. And I think that's probably the easiest way is to cut any red tape that homeowners may be facing. Again, I'm surprised to hear that this is a very popular policy that was implemented 4 years ago now, and it doesn't sound like we're keeping up with what the needs are for the community in regard to ADUs.
We certainly have to find ways to serve our residents and provide that kind of housing opportunities for them. Like Jared said, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of regulation, a lot of random bureaucracy in the city that goes on. So I think we ultimately have to take a stronger look at that as city council members, have honest discussions, and be able to provide for the residents and take the input from them as well, and ultimately create the city that they want, and hopefully the council members can deliver for them.
So my very first meeting with our city manager when I got elected, he asked, what would you like to do? And I said, I want us to be able to have ADUs. Because I do think it is a viable option for many people to have a lower cost place to live and also give the homeowner an extra source of income. And not for everyone, but also I was hoping to develop a tiny home village, and I was working on that with John Jennings, and then we cut him loose. I do think that would be a nice thing to have, and again, the success of the certain success of these. Shipping container stores, I would like to build on that by creating a kind of habitat for humanity for businesses, and bring a new business in, train somebody in how to do this. And
What I learned when I was collecting petitions is that people who I thought were pillars of the Clearwater community do not live in Clearwater city limits. And that really drove home for me the point that I was already campaigning on, which is that we need to be more affordable. And so I'm very open to this. I'm sorry to hear that there have not been very many that have been approved yet. So if that's the case, I think we need to be open to addressing the issues and hearing from the community what it is that's stopping them, because, life is expensive right now, and if we can provide relief and stable housing for people, I want to have that conversation.
I feel like I should do another audience poll. Who thinks Clearwater needs more affordable housing? You don't have to raise your hands. I know everybody would. It's imperative. If we're talking about building out US 19, who's going to work there? Where are they going to live? Are they going to come from further and tie up traffic from Tarpon Springs all the way to St. Petersburg? US 19 is tough, but there are many areas. Yes, Clearwater is technically built out, but there are many salvageable lands that could be converted so that people can afford to live. And I know we're all feeling a pinch these days. I know that it's tough when you look at the electric bill, when you look at the rent bill. My rent has gone up 40% in the last 5 years. And I'd like to do something different, but again, I live on Rose Road, so I'm never going to leave.
Yes, you'll be there. The next question will go to Mr. Wilson. As an elected council member, how will you balance your vote for what the majority of your constituents would like versus what maybe be your own specific priorities as you cast your vote?
Well, I don't think you should be running for your own self-interest. I think you should be running to serve the residents who elected you, and with that comes transparency. With that comes is open and honest dialogue with the residents. I intend for people to email me, to call me, to text me, to voice their concerns, to tell me how can I do my job better. Because if I'm not told how I can do my job better, then I'm just going to keep doing it the way I think I should be doing, which it's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, how do you want me to serve on your behalf? How do you want me to take on the issues that you deem are important? And so I think the public input is the most crucial thing when you're serving, because you have to serve the residents who elected you, not yourself.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yes, how, as an elected council member, how will you balance your vote between what your majority of your constituents would like and your own specific priorities on that vote?
Well, like I said with the landings, I know what the neighborhood wants. And I would go along and vote for that because you deserve to have a nice, peaceful neighborhood. I made a couple mistakes when I was on the council with the airport. I didn't realize just how noisy it was in that neighborhood until I was on the phone with, I think, Beth. And we were trying to talk, and there's a helicopter hovering overhead. And it's like, oh my God, how do you live with that? So I would work harder to actually get out in the community, talk to people, find out what they want. Because it is, after all, you know, your city, we're there to help you have it be the best city for you as possible.
My priority will be to listen to the people because my job is to work for the people who have elected me. I think that it's been very disappointing recently where we've seen council members willfully going against what the citizens have told them that they want. And it's not easy to be the lone voice. We're joined by Councilwoman Teixeira tonight, but she has fought hard for what the people actually wanted. And I'm sure at great personal loss and difficulty of criticism, but I think the most important thing as a council member is to listen to the people who you are elected to work for.
As the low dollar candidate in this contest, because I did get in late, I am not going to win unless I have a constituency behind me. I need your vote, and that's because you and I believe in the same things. I've spoken on a number of subjects tonight, and I think most of you can see if you disagree with me, then maybe you're going to vote for someone else. But if you agree with me, you know that I'm going to go there and I'm going to stand your ground and fight for you and see that I live up to the vote that you gave me.
Thank you. I think this is an important question because all too often we elect leaders who don't necessarily end up listening to what our needs are as a community. That's why I'm running. I'm running to represent every single one of you here tonight. And whether you support me now or you do on August 18th, which I hope you will, but I'm running to make sure that we have a voice for our neighbors and our neighborhoods on city council. For far too long, we haven't. And if you've paid attention for any amount of time in Clearwater, you know that I've led a city board for the last decade. And during that time, I've listened to what people come to our meetings and say. I've listened to the emails that I get from our residents. And I've adapted, and we've brought forth different policy and initiatives that have saved the taxpayers millions of dollars because of listening to what we want. Thank you.
The next question will go to Mr. Bunker. Downtown development is finally moving forward after decades of limited activity, largely through private investment. If you are elected, what specific actions would you take with the government properties that have become surplus in downtown and the activities of the Church of Scientology and the activities of the city in developing downtown? In other words, what is your perception of the best way forward for developing downtown Clearwater?
Well, step one, we need to have control over those county properties. That's incredibly important. And as I said, when I was on the council, I was always saying, we can't trust Miscavige. He's going to stab us in the back again. That has been what has happened. Now, he's finally doing something, and I say we should be cautiously optimistic about it and be aware of actually how Scientology operates, because they put, David Miscavige puts a lot of pressure on the people who work for him in Scientology. He's a micromanager and he's a tyrant. And if he's going to be interfering with the businesses that go in there, that's going to be a problem. See, he's doing that now in some respects. You know, it's important to understand how Scientology Miscavige operates.
Earlier this evening, we discussed how a very important issue about downtown is about to come before council. And the general consensus is that everyone is very concerned what the outcome of that will be. And so my thought that I want to pose to you is, if you can't trust them to listen to you about vacating a road, why would you trust them to take over such a large, life-changing opportunity in downtown? I think we need to do everything possible to make downtown a place where people want to live, work, and play. And until we have a reason not to trust the plans that are being developed, I think that we need to be open to the ideas, because at the end of the day, we have to have a thriving downtown to have a thriving city. I would also like to point out that I do think that this is the long game, but when the only available properties are not left to individuals or members of the church or the church themselves, I think it's going to bring everyone to the table, and I hope that that will bring change over time.
Did anyone else watch that work session the other day where Scientology came in and explained what they were doing to all our buildings? Told us. I've got everybody voting now. August 18th, yes, please vote yes. They sat there for 2 hours and told you the color of the bricks they were using, the quality of the mortar they were doing, the wonderful job they did restoring the clock. They never said a word and denied the council the privilege of having their question answered. What are you going to do with it? When are you going to activate it? When is there going to be a store in there that collects tax revenue for our city? When is that going to be a real street, or is it going to sit empty like so many other buildings that Scientology has bought, dressed up, and then let sit empty and generate no revenue for the city? Our downtown's never going to come back if we keep letting that happen. I don't know that we can stop them. They're already in construction phases. They're already pulling permits. I believe they tore down their theater site before they even had a construction fence up, because they wanted it done before that meeting to impress you that they are actually doing it, and I don't think they are.
Thank you for the question. I think, again, from a theme point tonight, I think what we're all striving for is an activated downtown, and that's what we all as a community want and deserve. I think the best use will vary from property to property, but the overarching goal should be the same, that we're creating an active, vibrant downtown that serves our residents, our businesses, and our visitors. And I would prioritize projects that put people on the street, that support local businesses, and generate tax revenue and contribute to a walkable downtown environment. We should be looking for partners who have a proven track record for delivering projects, not just proposing them, and we should be willing to work collaboratively with them and the city through this process. Ultimately, these properties represent a tremendous opportunity for growth and to help create an activated downtown in Clearwater, and that's something that we've been working for decades, and we're on the precipice of it. Thank you.
So I think we all want to see an activated downtown. I certainly do. I certainly think that the county properties are going to be historic. If we can get those activated with mixed use, residential, commercial, maybe even education, I would not oppose to seeing St. Pete College or USF take over some of those properties and create an educational opportunity for students to come downtown. And ultimately, our downtown is under construction. You go down to the Bluff, it's under construction. You walk along Cleveland Street, it's under construction. EVO is not Scientology. EVO is Scientology dirt, but the Mitch guy who came, he's not a Scientologist. EVO is not a Scientology company. And so I think there's narratives being thrown around to negate the fact that Clearwater is on the move. And until we have a reason not to believe that it's the right intention, we should just watch it happen. Watch it happen. I think we're throwing around accusations saying, and trust me, I grew up here too. Downtown was empty when I was a child, but I think we are turning a corner, and the city and the county and all entities involved are going to produce the best downtown possible, and I'm believing in that.
This will be the final question for this evening, and we'll start with Bianca. If you have read Leveling the Playing Field, do you have and a recommendation from it that you would drive as a council member, or if you have not read Level the Playing Field, will you make a commitment publicly to read it and perhaps drive some of the recommendations when you become a council member?
Well, I think that tonight the playing field is not level because it was put in front of my seat before I got here. But I've read every note, every book, every memorandum that has been given to me, and I've listened to every person about what they talked about and what they desired and what they thought the issues were. My impression is that this is about what the future of development in Clearwater should look like. And I think that development should be thoughtful. We have very little space left available, and I think that we need to be intentional. So I will read the materials provided. I just didn't have the opportunity before this evening.
I just read it. I also just had it handed to me today. Thank you, Patrick. Land use has been the majority of what we've talked about here. Whether it's out at the beach and the overdevelopment there, whether we're building the right things downtown, whether they ever will be occupied and bring us a tax base, whether it's along US 19. Pinellas County as a whole is pretty much considered a built-out county. There is virtually no unused land. Everything must be repurposed. So every time one of these comes up, there are going to be people that say, no, not my beloved. But we've got to move forward. If it's for the best of the city and the citizens, then we should do it. If it's against what we want, if it takes away our green spaces, then I'm against it.
Thank you. Leveling the Playing Field is an important document. It's one that, while some of the candidates got that document tonight, it's been available and widely disseminated through the CNC website. There's a version of it online if you like to read digitally. It's been around for quite a few years now, and the reason for this document isn't because we're opposed to development. It's because 39 out of 40 projects out of the year, there's no conflict. But every year, it seems, there's usually a project where there's conflict with the surrounding neighborhood that doesn't fit the character, that there's no buffer between it and the rest of the neighborhood. And what we need to do is look at not just these individual projects, but overall how we go through our process for approving projects to make sure that we can 100% of our projects have no conflict with our neighbors and our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Well, I too have not been able to read this. This is my first time touching it, so I will commit to reading it and to having a thoughtful conversation with individuals, probably up here, probably most of you all, to talk about the future of Clearwater, the future of land use in our city, the future of projects and development that's going to affect my generation, the generations after me. And I'm just so grateful to be even in the position to even consider reading it and talking about it with all of you all.
I believe I have read that. You passed this out a few years back, didn't you? Or is this
Probably at a CNC meeting, yeah.
okay? It's something that we really need to pay attention to. I know the CNC are a wonderful group that's really trying to get the city to understand how important it is to listen to the citizens. And it's something, of course, that I support. I think all of us support. We have to have better communication. We have to be working at ways so that you do not get surprises when a development comes, and make sure that everything we do is for you.
That will conclude the question and answer period. And I must say to each of you, there was no intention by giving you this book tonight to be a trick question to you. We just wanted to make sure that if you had read it, did you have an idea? If you haven't read it, we are simply suggesting if you read it and give it some thought and thoughtful conversation as Mr. Wilson suggested. Now we'll go to the final event, which is each of you, beginning with Mr. Laughlin, who take a full 2 minutes to explain to this audience and anybody that is listening why he should be elected to the council seat he's running for.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Patrick. No insult was meant on your book. As you see that I try to inject a little wit and a little humor in almost everything we do, no matter how serious the subject matter is. What I've seen in Clearwater elections, in these city council elections, 3 years ago, one group was taking credit for winning all 3 seats. More money was spent on that election per seat than ever before. We're seeing the same thing now. We're seeing large amounts of dollars come to candidates. And to be truthful, the real thing that drove me to this, that they cannot just buy 1 more seat, 2 more seats. The council already has been 5-0, 5-0, 5-0 on everything that's come before them. Take the landings. I think you know where Jared and I are in that position with the mayor abstaining. Now it's a 2-2 vote and we kill it if they don't push it through before we're elected. These are the kind of things that really make elections matter. Even if say we do win and it's 3-2, we're going to fight and we're going to try to persuade. I don't know that there's anyone on the council after it changes over that is persuadable to keep building, and worrying about traffic, worrying about recreation, worrying about the common people, worrying about affordable housing until it's too late. Okay? We need to address the real problems of housing, of recreation, keeping our green spaces, curing the traffic to the beach, getting control of those 17 properties. The county has said we are going to maximize our property, our profit on those properties. So do you think they really care what's going to happen to us? Thank you.
My legs almost fell asleep sitting so long. Thank you all for coming out here tonight and spending a couple hours with us. I hope you learn more about me and my vision for the future of Clearwater. When we started this campaign, I heard from residents across the city, whether it's in Del Oro Groves or the Clearwater Beach or Countryside or North Greenwood neighborhood. And what I keep hearing from residents is that they want a government that's accessible, transparent, and listens to them. I ran a city board for nearly 10 years. I listened to residents. I advocated for policies and initiatives that save the city millions of dollars and you as taxpayers. I'm ready to get to work on day one. I've been endorsed by the National Organization for Women. And if you want a better Clearwater, vote Jared Leone on August 18th. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming out tonight and to, allowing me to even be on the stages. Blows my mind still. So I am truly honored, and thank you, Patrick. You did such a good job. And so, where I stand is I'm running to bring a fresh perspective. That's why I started this campaign. I've already been serving the residents of Clearwater, but residents from Tarpon Springs down to Tierra Verde every single day, answering your phone calls, trying to provide the best customer service that I possibly can. And with that, I've learned how to listen. I learned how to have honest conversations. But ultimately, I've learned how to deliver results. Being on council is important because you have to be a policy maker, not just talk. You have to do, create actions, find solutions to problems. That's what I do for work. I read, I study policy, I provide policy recommendations that affect everybody in our area. And so with that, I'm bringing that expertise to City Council because I'm ready to get to work, focus on the policy that matters, and not just talk, not just say things that everyone will enjoy, but to really get down to work. And I'd be remiss, I don't think anyone's brought it up, but I would be remiss if we didn't bring up what happened last night on the beach. Disgusting behavior. And I think public safety is one of my number one priorities. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of our Sheriff Galtier. I'm proud to have the endorsements of both the PPA and the FOP. And just today, I was endorsed by the firefighter union. So first responders are on my side because they believe that I'm going to provide the public safety necessities. Public safety is the backbone of our neighborhoods. If our neighborhoods aren't safe, we're not safe. And so I'm bringing that experience, the expertise, the willingness to serve, and most of all, I'm bringing the energy. I'm going to work my tail off every single day that I'm elected. And I hope you all can trust me to do that. So thank you so much.
I wasn't going to run again because they changed the very way that elections are done here because I won in 2020. There were 5 of us in the race, and I won the most of the 5. It was less than 50%. And Hoyt Hamilton, who again I like, said we can't let that happen. We have to have runoffs. And no one should take office without more than 50%. And I said to Hoyt, well, you know, I would have preferred to run unopposed as you had done in the past. But I had 5 people in the race. And what has happened now that the runoffs are here? You don't see 5 people for each seat. I think a lot of people like me were going, well, this is impossible. We've got people who have all the money in the world, have the backing of the entire GOP structure. And how do you fight that? Well, I gotta say, it's important to try. I've been called a one-trick pony. I believe I'm more than that. I've been working for the people, helping people through my work in journalism, through my work helping people who've been abused by Scientology, and that was the purpose of being on the council as well, to help the people of Clearwater. I gotta say that we're looking at a council that may be permanently one party, and I'm worried about that. We had somebody on the council now who said, hey, let's change Court Street to Charlie Kirk Way. And the chamber was filled with angry citizens. Angry. And we have another candidate who was at the same Charlie Kirk runs and visiting with the same Scientologists. So that's why I have to give it another shot.
Both my bachelor's and my master's in political science. And I did that because I came home one day and I told my dad, I want to change the world. And along the way, I discovered that the world maybe didn't need me, but my community did. And that same dad gave me an incredibly hard work ethic because he's an immigrant. He came here with nothing and could not ever go home. And I'm compassionate and hardworking because of him. And you need a strong council member who is going to stand up for you on the issues that matter and won't be afraid to be a voice that is dissenting among the others. I think that right now, we only have one woman sitting on that dais, and we would be remiss if we let that opportunity go, because a woman's voice is at least some balance, and our community has so many needs, and I'm here to build those bridges between the dissenting opinions and really move our city to a place that is thriving and safe and affordable, and that we are proud to be citizens of.
I want to thank each of you candidates for taking the time to run, which is a significant effort, and to appear at our event tonight and to answer our questions honestly and truthfully. By the same token, I'd like to thank the audience for taking time to come out and listen to them. Also like to thank the assistant pastor for making this wonderful facility available to us. As a final reminder to everyone, voter registration for this election will close on the 20th of July. Make sure you are registered to vote. Early voting begins on August the 8th through the 16th at 315 Court Street, the courthouse in downtown Clearwater. And the actual election itself is August the 18th. So take the time, this is the first forum event, to learn about the candidates, see where they align mostly with what you align with, and vote intelligently and informed. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and this is the end of the event.